before you say a single word, before you introduce yourself, before you make your argument, before you tell your story. People have already made a judgment about you, not based on your appearance, not based on your clothes or your posture or the confidence in your eyes, based on the sound of your voice. In less than half a second of hearing a human voice, the brain has already begun constructing an entire psychological profile of the speaker: dominance level, health status, hormonal vitality, trustworthiness, sexual viability, leadership potential, all of it, from sound alone. And here is what makes this genuinely extraordinary, and what nobody in the semen retention conversation is talking about with the scientific precision it deserves. Your voice frequency is not fixed. It is not the permanent instrument you were handed at puberty and stuck with forever. It is a living, dynamic biological signal that shifts, measurably, detectably, in ways that others perceive both consciously and unconsciously, based on your internal hormonal and neurological state. And semen retention changes that state in ways that directly, physically, alter the sound your body produces when you open your mouth. This is not a metaphor. This is acoustic biology. And by the time this video ends, you will never hear a man's voice the same way again. Let us begin with the architecture of the human voice, because to understand how retention changes it, you need to understand what the voice actually is at its biological root. Your voice is produced by the vibration of the vocal folds, two bands of mucous membrane stretched across the larynx, or voice box, in the throat. When air from the lungs passes through them, they vibrate at specific frequencies. The fundamental frequency of that vibration is what we perceive as the pitch of the voice. The harmonics, the complex layering of frequencies above the fundamental, is what gives a voice its timbre, its resonance, its quality of fullness or thinness, warmth or coldness, authority or uncertainty. The size, thickness, tension, and hydration state of the vocal folds determine these frequencies, and all of these physical properties are directly governed by the endocrine system, specifically by testosterone and its metabolites. This is not a new discovery. The dramatic voice change that occurs in adolescent males is one of the most visible demonstrations in human biology of testosterone's direct action on physical tissue. Testosterone causes the larynx to grow, the vocal folds to lengthen and thicken, and the fundamental frequency of the voice to drop, in some cases by more than an octave, over the course of puberty. But here's what most people do not know. That process does not simply stop at the end of adolescence and freeze permanently. The vocal folds remain hormonally responsive tissue throughout a man's entire life. They continue to respond, subtly but measurably, to fluctuations in the hormonal environment. Which means your voice today is not identical to your voice last month, and your voice next month will not be identical to your voice today. It is changing. Right now, based on what your body is doing internally. Here's the question you need to sit with for a moment. If testosterone directly governs the physical properties of vocal tissue, and if semen retention measurably affects testosterone levels and hormonal signaling, then the logical conclusion is almost too straightforward. But I want to take you beyond logic into the actual research, because what the studies show goes even deeper than testosterone alone. Stay with me. The testosterone-voice connection has been studied with increasing sophistication over the past 2 decades, and the findings are consistently striking. A study published in the journal Hormones and Behavior examined the relationship between testosterone levels and voice pitch in men across different reproductive and competitive contexts. The findings confirmed that voice fundamental frequency, the baseline pitch, correlates inversely with free testosterone levels. Higher free testosterone consistently predicted lower, fuller voice fundamental frequency across subjects. A separate body of research from the University of Albany demonstrated that women can detect men's testosterone levels from voice samples alone with accuracy significantly above chance, meaning the voice is not just correlated with hormonal state, it is actively broadcasting it. Women in this research rated lower-pitched, fuller resonance male voices as more dominant, more attractive, and more indicative of good genetic health, all of which are proxies for what the female brain is actually assessing, which is hormonal vitality. Now place this alongside the retention research, the study from the World Journal of Urology demonstrating the testosterone peak at day 7 of abstinence. The consistent practitioner reports of elevated energy, increased confidence, and heightened social presence in the weeks of retention. The documented reduction in prolactin, the hormone that suppresses testosterone and dampens the entire masculine hormonal profile following ejaculation. The chain is not complicated. Retention preserves and elevates the hormonal environment. The hormonal environment directly governs the physical properties of vocal tissue. The physical properties of vocal tissue determine the frequency, resonance, and authority of the voice. The voice broadcasts this information to every person who hears it. You are not just speaking when you open your mouth. You are transmitting a complete biological report on your internal state. Now I want to go into something that goes beyond testosterone, because there is a second mechanism driving the voice change during retention that almost nobody is discussing. It involves your nervous system, your breath, and something called vagal tone. This is the layer that explains why retained men do not just sound different. They sound calmer, deeper, and more grounded in a way that has nothing to do with pitch alone. Keep watching. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the human body. It runs from the brainstem down through the neck, passing directly adjacent to the larynx, through the chest and into the abdomen, innervating the heart, lungs, and digestive organs along the way. It is the primary nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, and restore state, and its tone, meaning the degree of its healthy activation, is one of the most important indicators of overall neurological health and emotional regulation capacity. High vagal tone is associated with deep, slow, controlled breathing, with a steady, low heart rate, with the ability to remain calm under pressure and recover quickly from stress, with emotional stability and the capacity to connect authentically with others. And critically for this conversation, high vagal tone is directly associated with lower, fuller, more resonant voice production. Because the vagus nerve innervates the muscles of the larynx, the quality of vagal activation directly influences how the vocal folds vibrate, how the breath supports the voice, and how the entire vocal tract resonates. Chronic ejaculation, particularly in the compulsive, shame-driven pattern most common in modern men, keeps the nervous system cycling through sympathetic activation, the stress axis, the fight, flight, and freeze state, shallow breathing, elevated cortisol, reduced vagal tone, and a voice that, even when the man is trying to sound confident, carries a quality of tension, constriction, and barely suppressed anxiety that perceptive listeners detect immediately. Retention, over weeks and months, shifts the nervous system toward parasympathetic dominance. Vagal tone increases. Breathing deepens and slows. The body's baseline state moves from chronic low-grade stress toward genuine settled presence. And the voice, without any deliberate training or practice, begins to reflect this shift. It drops. It fills. It slows. It carries a quality of grounded authority that no vocal coaching can manufacture, because it comes not from technique, but from biological state. There is a third dimension to this voice change that operates at a level even more subtle than pitch and resonance, and it may be the most powerful of all. Researchers studying human vocal communication have identified what they call prosodic features, the rhythmic, melodic, and timing qualities of speech that convey emotional and psychological state independent of the actual words being spoken. Things like speech rate, pause duration, pitch variability, and what linguists call voice onset time, the tiny gap between breath and vocalization that signals confidence or hesitation at a nearly subliminal level. These prosodic features are extraordinarily difficult to consciously control. You can train your pitch to some degree. You can practice speaking more slowly, but the micro-timing of your speech, the quality of your pauses, the subtle melodic contour of your sentences, these emerge from your nervous system state automatically, below the level of deliberate control. And they broadcast your internal reality with ruthless accuracy. Men in states of depletion, hormonal depletion, energetic depletion, the post-ejaculatory neurological flatness, exhibit measurably different prosodic patterns from men in states of retained vitality. Their speech rate increases slightly under stress. Their pauses fill with filler sounds. Their pitch rises at sentence endings in a pattern linguists associate with seeking approval rather than stating truth. Their voice onset time carries the microsecond signature of hesitation. Retained men, by contrast, exhibit the prosodic profile of genuine inner security. Slower, deliberate speech, comfortable silence without the compulsion to fill it. Downward pitch at sentence endings, the acoustic signature of declarative certainty. Voice onset without hesitation. These differences are below conscious perception in normal conversation, but they are registered by the listener's nervous system instantaneously and translated into feelings. Feelings of trust or distrust, of respect or subtle condescension, of wanting to lean in or wanting to pull back. Your voice is doing social and biological negotiation on your behalf every time you speak. The only question is what it is saying about you. I want to pause here and bring this out of the abstract, because I think there is a moment most men can recall where they notice this without having the framework to explain it. A moment when you heard someone speak, maybe in a meeting, maybe in a conversation, and something about the sound of their voice made you immediately think, that person has something, before they said anything of substance, before you knew anything about them, just the sound. You felt it. Now you know what you were actually detecting. The evolutionary biology of voice preference adds another layer to this that is almost uncomfortably revealing. Research from a series of studies at University College London found that women's preferences for male voice pitch shift measurably across the millennial cycle, with preference for lower, more testosterone-indicative voices peaking during the fertile window, when the female brain is most acutely oriented toward assessing male genetic quality. This is not a conscious preference. It is a biological evaluation system operating below awareness, shaped by millions of years of evolutionary pressure toward accurately detecting male vitality and reproductive fitness. What this means in practical terms is that when a man speaks, every person in the room, regardless of gender, regardless of conscious awareness, is running an instantaneous, unconscious assessment of his biological state based on acoustic cues alone. And the verdict of that assessment shapes every subsequent interaction. How much space he is given, how seriously his words are taken, whether people orient toward him or away from him, whether he is perceived as a source of value or a drain on it. This is happening constantly, in every conversation, in every meeting, in every social interaction, and most men have no idea that their voice is either working powerfully for them or quietly undermining them, based entirely on the hormonal and neurological state they are carrying into the room. What I want to say to you now comes from a place that has nothing to do with science and everything to do with something I think you already feel. So stay with me for just another minute. Think about the conversations you want to have, the ones where you speak your truth fully, without shrinking, where you say what you actually mean and it lands with the weight it deserves, where you feel the other person genuinely hearing you, not just processing your words, but actually receiving you. Think about the moments when you have felt that, when your voice carried something real and people felt it, when you spoke without apology and the room shifted, when you were fully present in your own expression. Those moments were not luck. They were not confidence tricks or communication techniques. They were moments when your biology was aligned, when your hormonal state, your nervous system, and your energetic reserves were all supporting the full expression of who you are. That alignment is not accidental. It is not random. It is the product of choices made in private before the conversation ever begins. Every time you choose retention over depletion, you are investing in that alignment. You are choosing to walk into the next conversation, the next meeting, the next moment that matters, carrying the fullest possible version of your own voice. Not a performed voice, not a trained voice, your actual voice, the one that only emerges when the biology behind it is whole. That voice is worth protecting, it is worth building, because it is not just sound, it is the most direct expression of who you are, broadcast to the world in real time, every time you open your mouth. And the world responds to it accordingly. If this opened something for you today, if you heard something in this that you have felt but never had the science to explain, please give this video a like right now. 1 second of your time helps this reach the men who need to hear it. Share this with someone whose voice you want to hear at its full power. Someone who deserves to know that what they sound like on their best days is not a fluke. It is their biological truth, available to them consistently when they choose to protect it. Subscribe to this channel if you are ready to go deeper into the science and the practice that nobody else is putting together this clearly. And thank you, truly, genuinely, for the time and attention you brought to this today. Your presence here matters, your pursuit of this knowledge matters, and the man you are becoming through that pursuit matters more than you currently know. Stay grounded, stay resonant. See you in the next one.